Okay, Pirate Wizard Dragon here, coming to you from Longmont, Colorado, doing this video for a friend of mine in response to her wonderful YouTube comments, Starlove Starlight. This is just the easiest way for me to respond to your wonderful writing. I'm not very fast at typing, and I tend to edit myself a little more as I type, so I'm just going to read it. I'm not going to. This is pretty much just video. It's just for you. I will rant a little bit probably, and I probably will do another video today on just some interesting situations I'm being involved in, on a political nature. The game theory is, I'm going to read your response and kind of read it so I can think about it one more time. I've read it several times, but it's really good. The game theory is pretty interesting. However, I do believe that the game of life is different from all other games because we actually do make the rules. That first line is great because I got the concept of reality and life and the game and all that kind of simultaneously during the 90s when the whole Matrix, movies were coming out and that philosophy of the Matrix and all that. But basically the idea of reality being a game came from my perspective in my life, came from Grant Morrison and the comic book The Invisibles. Sorry, I'm just really tight, need to stretch a little bit. And the idea that we do make the rules is, to me, the way I relate to that is chaos magic, and just the way that some people ritualistically use magic. I talked about that in my first video on God, University, everything, and I don't even do ritualistic chaos magic anymore. I've only done it a handful, maybe not even a dozen times total, but I can testify the fact that concentrated intentions in a ritualistic manner do tend to make manifestations more a possibility in this reality on any level. So that's something that I do believe that we do kind of make the rules, but it's hard because if we all make the rules, then there is a consensus reality too. So we're all struggling to redefine this paradigm constantly, which is something that when you go up against corporations, you don't make the rules. Is the only way I play the devil's advocate to the statement that you made. But let me keep reading, because our creative will as a sovereign being sees that we get exactly what we want in this life, whether we can see beyond our own egos, our own denial, and look at the big picture that leads us to where we are. That is what either makes the game seem like it's in our control or someone else's. There are many wills at play here on planet Earth. That's just what I was speaking about. They do affect us all to a degree. However, one big problem with humans is that they see their one singular life as all that there is. If their will isn't exacted down to the letter during the 100-year lifetime, then they're unsatisfied. Rabbit hole warning, but I have to say, if it was understood that humans have been the same throughout time and what they made of will continue to incarnate on this planet until it is literally impossible for planet to sustain life, well then I think there'd be more peace in the heart of man. That's not saying don't go for the gusto in this life. By all means, do. Try your hardest in every life. It speeds up the process to the ultimate goal. I thought about this. I thought about it a lot because it basically makes me believe you believe in reincarnation, or some aspect of reincarnation with energy. And I do believe in reincarnation in the way that everything reincarnates on a physical in this manner. When it comes to the soul and reincarnation is an interesting topic. I put some thought into it. I can't say I believe or disbelieve in it. I remember reading the Journey of Oversoul 7. I forget who wrote that book, but it was about how the concept behind it was this lady channeled this. She channeled her future soul, or she explained it was called The Journey of Oversoul 7 or something like that. It was a really interesting book. Maybe you'd probably enjoy it. How all your souls in every incarnation are on a kind of weird communication through deja vu, however that communication manifests. It's always it's not clear. It's not like calling somebody on the phone, but my earliest incarnation is in communication with my future incarnation on a subconscious level, I guess, or a symbolic level, or emotional level. I'm not sure how that works, but yeah, I put some thought into that, and I guess that's the thing. Is what you wrote there makes me think that maybe the intentions of one's lifetime aren't so important in its singularity of one lifetime, but the the magic or the will or the energy we exert to change the reality, the world, the paradigm we're in, is more a cumulative thing with the soul. So I kind of get where you're going there. It's made me think about it a lot more. And I will continue. I gotta tell you, I love your writing. I can't wait to read your book. I can't wait to read. This video is pretty much for you personally. I'd like to talk to you on the phone one of these days, or even meet with you, because I find you fascinating and very intelligent. And it's nice because I don't consider myself to be that smart. I love it when people get back to me that I consider more intelligent, and they make me think about things, because I feel like I become more intelligent in that way. But then you address my whole thing on infinity versus finite. I think the concept, this is you speaking, I think the concept of infiniteness was infiniteness was put out there to confuse people to a degree. The only thing that is truly infinite is consciousness. Consciousness flows through the structure of the universe, and so encompasses all that is. So encompasses all that is, but also goes beyond it. There's nothing outside of consciousness, because without consciousness, it's unrecognized anyway. So even time without consciousness, I guess, would be unrecognized. So yeah, if there is anything that is eternal and there is infiniteness to it, it would have to be some sort of consciousness. Now, would that be God? Would that be, all of us once the Big Bang or, Big Crunch happens again and is pushed back into a very small amount of area, everything that ever was, then is that God again? I don't know. These are all things that are way beyond my pay grade, so to speak. But I still think about them. I'm sorry, let me get back to what you were saying. There's nothing outside of consciousness, because without consciousness, it is unrecognized anyway. I have to agree with that. I don't know, I have to think more about that. That's really deep. So in that way, consciousness is infinite, but at the grand level, its infiniteness is irrelevant. Truth, it's infinitely small and infinitely large. Like that whole, whenever I think of infinity and infiniteness in this, I connect it to something I saw like in junior high, last year of junior high, first year of high school. The Animaniacs, they had this, I love the Animaniacs. I don't know if you remember, I'm sure a lot of people remember that cartoon. They were well written, and they made you think. The little cartoons were pretty deep, some of them sometimes. The only other cartoon I've seen that's been kind of deep on a reincarnation level like that, or like a cosmos, macro, cosmos, looking at it, it would be Inuyasha. There was one in Inuyasha one, that's a different topic. But there was an Animaniacs ones that showed, I just remember the visual of it. I'm a very visual person, but it showed like a snowflake, and then it just kept going, from smaller to smaller to bigger to bigger to bigger, and then it repeated. So it was just illustrating that everything was at the same time huge but small, but also part of this never-ending pattern of just life and reality and the universe and all that. And it was a cool little way to illustrate it with cartoons. But I agree. That's. Sorry, let me get back to get a little sidetracked. Consciousness can go to the let's see. Consciousness is infinite, but let's see. I'm sorry. There's nothing outside of consciousness without consciousness. So in that way, consciousness is infinite, but at the grand level, its infiniteness is irrelevant. Consciousness is infinite, but at that grand level, its infiniteness is irrelevant. In truth, it's infinitely small and infinitely large. Consciousness can go to the precipice and peer into nothingness outside of itself. However, there's nothing there. Into the nothingness outside of itself. However, there's nothing there. That's the extent of being infinite. To consciousness, infinity is simply the act of being all-encompassing. To whole of all that is, infinity is no longer a mystery, but a Rolodex of where everything is stored. That's some deep stuff right there, Starlove, Starlight. I have to really think about it a little more. I'd like to know where you come up with your ideas. Are you a certain follower of a certain belief system, and did you just come up with this yourself? Like, I think it's really deep and wise, and I would need more time to think about how all that fits together, because each one of those sentences could take me a while to actually digest, like, as a whole. And I've been trying to. I don't want to seem like I'm being flaky on you, but I've been trying to read your responses. I remember you're just a wonderful writer. I do think humanity's angst is due largely in part to reproduction. However, rather it being the act of reproduction itself, it's more like survival. Let me respond to that, because the act of reproduction obviously is sex that we're talking about. And I don't think there's a way of removing the act with the unconscious need to survive via reproducing. I think that's why so much of it, I mean, the media, just, I don't know, I have a lot of thoughts on this subject that are a little, some of them are embarrassing, some of them are personal, some of them are, that's how we relate to sex and reproduction in our life, is through experiences. So it's hard for me to address this without trying to, it's hard for me to address anything without trying to remove my bias of my experiences from it and look at it objectively. That's just the human condition. But I gotta disagree with you a little bit, just because I'm playing the devil's advocate, and that's what I like to do. I like to debate and stimulate conversation through debate. So that's something that I learned from, because I'm always arguing with myself, trying to find the right answer to things, and trying to use rationality and reason and logic to come to a conclusion that makes sense and I can swallow, so to speak. The reason I say the angst is largely a good chunk of the angst, and I'll read more here too. I agree with almost everything you say except for that first part. Just because the actual act, at least I remember when I was young, was quite on the mind, was quite distracting, was the actual the desire for just the act, and not obviously not the results of the act. That wasn't even on the mind of I don't think it's on the mind of most people that partake in the act of reproduction. I don't think that survival or maybe it is on an unconscious level, and that's the thing that we always have to argue, is it the conscious or the unconscious that is truly driving us the most, whether we realize it or not. Are we reacting to things that, the programmed pathways of habit and ritual that we've engaged in our whole life? Are we just responding to that on an unconscious level from childhood, or this is all stuff that I'm sure Freud and psychologists have thought a lot about. But I don't know. Let me continue to read. There are a great many features we need in order to survive. Humans need some sort of social setting where they get as much stimuli as they want, be it entertainment, having friends, or maintaining a romantic relationship. There's always some kind of standard to be reached in relation to humans and their counterparts. On top of the natural inclination, there is also the plight of time. Through the millennia, humans' existence, referred to in the first paragraph, humans have set up all these rules and laws and have been conditioned new humans with all their preconceived notions. This is where the saga of life comes into play. Throughout our various orbits in the universe, life on the Earth goes through phases. Like the Dark Age, etc., humans were set into this long journey through the universe to experience all seasons of life on Earth through all its various, sometimes treacherous locations throughout the route. Sometimes humans are great, sometimes they live in utopian lifestyle on a mass scale, sometimes humans become incredibly degraded and live in agony amidst perverted laws and rules. That, yes, some people may argue was a game they didn't agree to and have no control over. Admittedly, there's a lot of acceptance, understanding that has to come into play when living this kind of reality. For example, I find myself in a society of weirdos who hurt themselves. Oh, they moved. It moved. I didn't even touch it. Sorry. For example, I find myself in a society of weirdos that hurt themselves and others, and I don't have to be that way. I can choose to be a good person, but I have to realize what kind of world I'm living in. If I choose to survive, I have to learn how to manipulate their game to my benefit and serve my own will. Simply the act of me exacting my will in my daily life will change the world around me. This leads us back around to the game of life actually being somewhat that is within our control to an important extent. I agree 100%. But I think that realization comes with age, it comes with experience, and it comes with willpower, and maybe a little bit of luck, at least. At least in my lifetime, I'm lucky enough to have been incarnated, so to speak, in this body at this time and this day, and have the decisions and the luxury to be able to exact my will over certain parameters and material things and people, and to a limited extent. I'm not saying forcing people to do stuff, but I agree 100%. And the way you put it is, way, I don't know, more eloquent than I can. I'm not, it's philosophy that we're talking about here, really. It's philosophy and religion, and I used to always like to say and this is the only way I don't know, this makes more sense to me than a lot of religious texts that I've read, and maybe, I don't know where I got this or if I read this, but it's just something I used to say a lot, is we are basically helping God become God, or goddess, or we are helping goddess become goddess. So we are helping the ultimate become the ultimate, because there is true free will. It is truly infinite, the amount of choices and all the different lives from the Dark Ages to now, all the different incarnations, all the different periods of time, all the everything that human beings experience is so much that God, I always use the word goddess because of my upbringing, the goddess, or that which can be unknown, that is more than everything and all things, and infinite, Alpha, the Omega, the beginning, and all that jazz. The ultimate consciousness, however you want to look at it, isn't there yet, isn't God yet. How could it be? Only, and maybe never will be. Maybe there is no God. Maybe God is always becoming, always because if there is an infinite amount of variables and realities, then how could God know everything? How could there be a consciousness that, and does this have to happen so many times? And it gets back to the whole infinite, versus finite thing, is that maybe we're helping God become God. Maybe that's what the purpose of all this. I really think whatever it was lonely or bored and split itself into a billion, trillion, quadrillion, inconceivably million parts that eventually evolved into us, and I think it's a combination of science and mysticism and religion and all. I think it's all true and all false. It's all paradox. That's definitely been the only truth I've seen in my life, is paradox. Not paradox, but walking contradictions of reality and just duality. I mean, it's weird. Everything's been it's very dualistic, the reality we live in. And I don't know. Anyways, I'm getting sidetracked. But this is how I'm responding to your video, because this is the thoughts that go through my head. I hope you enjoy this. It's pretty much just for you. If anybody else, I'll label it something because it's another philosophical rant, but I kind of wish I could, be better at typing out a response so it wouldn't be so rambling. But this is the best way for me to respond to your much gracious comments on my YouTube channel. The next part, you said, I agree with you about the tattoo industry. I think, like so many other things in the world today, it has become infiltrated. It's basically been taken over by media in an attempt to popularize and profit from it, and also control people. People, and thus their perception of themselves in the world. I have a tiny tattoo which I applied to myself so that I could understand what it was to be tattooed, from administration to healing to the end result. It was the best way for me to understand the entire process. It was powerful, and I can understand why so many people are so interested in it. But then down the rabbit hole I went, as always I tend to. I began to research and realized that the media had now been popularizing the tattoo industry for years in reality TV, and by touting mega popularized artists who go around displaying impossibly high quality art, acting like it's easy or something, I realized that people are being encouraged to be tattooed. Now you tell me, when the masses are actually encouraged to do something, historically, is it usually a good thing for them? It might have been paraded as good, but it was offered up as a perverted version of the original thing which was good. Once again, I agree with you 100%. I don't know. I'm victim to the influences of the media sometimes. I try to be conscious of it. I mean, I love movies. I love superhero movies. I love comic books. I loved the fringe media, like comic books and graphic novels and Vertigo, DC Comics, way before they were mainstream. All the stuff, the Big Bang Theory and all that. I was into all that stuff. Revenge of the Nerds was more how nerds were. You know what I mean? Portrayed when I was growing up, not like they are now. And tattooing is the same way. It's changed, and thus that happens in reality when, like you talked about, the mega corporations, the mega media sources, they get a hold of something. They realize that there's something And my personal theory on it is there's something there that they can't, everybody, especially if you've gone through the process of tattooing yourself, you can't deny the actual, I think I've talked to you about this before, the power of the symbols, the power of the act, the process, and in a lot of ways that power has been degraded. It's not any less powerful. It kind of is though. It's almost in a weird way. Like I see people that are completely covered with tattoos by the time they're 22 or 23. I mean, sleeves, bodysuits, everything. And man, my tattoos are the journey of my whole life. Like I'm not completely covered. I got a good chunk of my back. I have 2 big dragons on, and you know, I have more tattoos visible than hidden actually. And people assume I'm completely bodysuited up because I have a lot on my face and my, you know, you can see. But actually, I don't have I'm not probably even 50% covered, to be honest with you. And to me, I don't care if I ever get completely covered. It's not something that is going to be an obsession. It has been in the past. And it's something that you earn your tattoos to me. Like, they're memories, they're times I've been through. They have stories. I put a lot of meaning behind them, but they're personal. I know they're on my face, everybody can see them and stuff, but that doesn't make them any less personal for me, or it doesn't, I don't know, I have obviously a bias when it comes to tattoos, but I agree, it's been, the power behind it has been diminished because it's been so mass produced. It's like when a company that starts out with a couple of guys in a garage, a couple of old grandfathers or something, making handmade knives or something. They make handles for knives, and it's, I don't know, that's how I think about it. And then it grows and it grows. Pretty soon they're employing some people, and then pretty soon it's being made in a giant factory that it just gets degraded. It gets changed to the point where the original power behind it, the original feel, the original spirit behind it has been changed. And I've seen that in my lifetime. And I talk to people on Facebook. The guy that got me into tattooing, he's a little older than me, Sam, and he sent me it was great. I did that upload about scratchers versus, you know, professional tattoo artists on it, and I linked it on Facebook, and he commented on it. He said basically, you know, in 100 years, not even 100 years, I think he said 5 years actually, maybe even, I don't think in 5 years, but definitely in the next 10 years, you're going to be able to buy something off Amazon if we continue in the fashion that we're going with technology. You're going to be able to buy a tattoo, you know, instant tattoo machine on Amazon that you can program via some computer, and it'll have every, you know, you'll put your arm in it, or you'll put it on the part of the body you want tattooed, and 10 seconds later you're going to have a tattoo, or maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but 15 minutes later you're going to have a perfectly done tattoo, and it's not going to hurt at all. And yeah, I guess if that's what some people want, then that's, to me, I don't know. I have a hard time with that because it changes it so much that it's to me, getting a tattoo isn't like ordering pizza from Domino's. And that's what it's been turned into. So yeah, I've definitely given some thought to, and people are being encouraged, which is good for me. I'm a tattoo artist, but at the same time, I'm having spiritual problems with being a tattoo artist right now. Like I'm having actual I can't explain it. I can't even put it into words yet because it's just it's something I feel like I should be a painter more than a tattoo artist. So I'm painting more, but that's a side note. But let's see. The next part was great. In ancient times, tattoos meant something. Even lines and squiggles were serious business. Yes, they were magical. I mean, I talk about this in my tattoo history stuff on YouTube. I've done uploads on the history of tattoos. But one of my favorite examples of that is when they tattooed a woman. Once they realized the woman in Egypt in ancient times was pregnant, the women, female Egyptian mystics, the shaman of their time, who were also tattoo artists, tattooed a net on the belly of the woman, so that when the baby grew, the net would protect the fetus. And that's, you know, I love that stuff. I love the powerfulness of the old tattoos because it worked probably. I mean, that was the reality back then. Even lines and squiggles were serious. I feel as though today the majority of tattoo people out there have no idea about the history of the practice and its relation to the human body and perception. Worryingly, I've also noticed people are tending to get associated with something negative in their lives. People get tattooed after breakups or tattoos, or for dead people. This could affect them emotionally and psychology, as they will always be reminded of it. We as human organisms sprouting, I know you said sprouting, blooming, thriving, and ultimately dying dust to dust. are an extension of this planet in its in its path on all dimensions. Everything is fluid and constantly blinks in and out of existence. Nothing is set in stone, not even stone. We as humans are supposed to be able to adapt mind, body, and spirit. This means our perception of ourselves and others shouldn't be put under conditions or constrictions. It shouldn't be automatically triggered by a sign or symbol. We should be able to flow through space-time and adjusting to various changes that happen along the way. The programmability of human as their greatest blessings and their greatest curse has been used against us. The few seeking power over many. One point I would make to us is that humans lived long enough, their tattoos wouldn't last forever. Eventually it would fade away completely. Yes, they would. Sorry. Let me get it water. Yes, they would. I think I read this in a magazine or heard it one time that if humans lived to be 100 or 200 years old, and the parts of the body that were tattoos were exposed to the sun, they would completely fade away to nothingness, because that's pretty much what they use to remove tattoos today, is like accelerated light, super strong light, pulses, laser light that simulate the tattoo fading process. So, I agree about the programmability of tattoos and the symbols, and that there is, and myself as an artist, I struggle with that, because it seems like that's the only thing that is rewarded nowadays is the darkness. Like, not only thing that is rewarded, but that's the thing that's popular with not just my generation, but even more so with, it seems like generations coming up, that skeletons, dead babies, dead fetuses, women that are in bondage, that's what people are getting tattooed on them nowadays. And there's a time and a place for horror and death and celebration of those things, but not all the time. I mean, I love Wednesday too, and I love the Addams Family, and I love Gotham, but I'm over it, to be honest with you. I'm too happy to be gothic. I've always thought that, like, I can wear all black, but my rainbow aura is gonna overpower that blackness eventually, because I like color. I like beautiful things. I like brightness. That's why my paintings are the way they are, and I'm trying to create more beautiful art. But that's what, I don't know, the darkness and yes, the tattooing tattooing for dead people. I have a personal problem with this, and not so much it's a negative thing. And I think this is why the Old Testament God commanded people not to do it. Not that he commanded them not to tattoo, themselves for the sake of the dead. That was the actual ruling, or whatever you want to call it, the law in Old Testament, is that it binds their spirit here. It's not even so much about the person that is getting the tattoo for the person that's passed on. It's about the soul, and I agree that with you too. That if you're looking at a tattoo every day, once a day, about somebody that died and passed away, it's going to make you a little sad, and that's not letting go of it. That's not moving on. It is programming yourself to be sad about I don't know. I have a hard time with that, and I've done tattoos for the sake of the dead. So I'm working on one now. It's not finished, and so it's a little something that I don't do without thought, and it's something not that makes a difference, but it's something I'd rather not do. I'd rather not tattoo people for the sake of past loved ones, or a breakup or anything like that, just because I feel like I'm culpable in it too. I'm karmically tied into the whole process, which the more I do them, the more I realize that it's not. I don't know. But the whole thing with programming, and yes, that's why I have a dragon on my face. Like, I like to be empowered by my symbols of dragons on my body and dreams, and I even have some dark tattoos, but they've helped me overcome things. And I don't look at like my darkest tattoo probably is on this leg, unless you count the Sandman. I have a Sandman tattoo, and he's super dark, but it's not the idea of this isn't a dark concept. It's a concept of me, of hope and scariness in dreams, because dreams can be a little scary and dark, but with enough, dreams are living things, so with enough energy can make your dreams come true. But so these are symbols of power to me. I've used them to change my life, and I've used them to enhance the way I feel about myself, and I try to challenge people to do that. I've used them to become who I am. It's not like the tattoos have been brought out of me, not so much been given to me. And that's something powerful that I utilize, and I will continue to. I love tattoos. I love what they do. I love the way they've changed my life. They've made my life very interesting. I don't think I'd have half the connections and just ability to, without fear, communicate with so many different people. And I would have not been approached by so many different types of people in my life if I didn't look the way I do. It makes me in a weird way more approachable when everybody thinks that it makes you more unapproachable, which is the common misconception. And, you get tattoos, you're not gonna be able to get work, people aren't gonna blah, 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 but it's been quite the opposite in my experience. So, and then the last part, the part of, and I will think about this that you wrote more in the future too, so yes, this is a response, but it's just kind of off the cuff after sitting with it for a few days. And then the last part you say, yeah, death is messed up and it rarely happens the way you want it. Even with death, however, consciousness is generally unfazed. After experiencing it so many times, in so many ways, it's just more icing on the cake. The way we live affects people deeply. We may not even realize it. The way we die also has a profound effect on people, but interestingly, it's usually just people very close to us who feel traumatized over our death. Typically, if a broad array of people in different places know about us and then we die, it's usually associated with a kind of awe than anything terrible or gut-wrenching. I think people shouldn't treat death as such a touchy or taboo topic. Understanding a few important universal principles makes death less scary as a whole. I like to remember that the time we spend actually dying is a tiny fraction compared to the time that everything's fine in our lives. And I agree. I'm just going to check, make sure this is still recording. Hope it is. It seems like it's still recording, so we're all good. I agree. I remember being somewhat fascinated by just death when I was younger, and it's one of the most, if that's what you believe, then you're free in some ways, or you don't worry about the continuation, because it's unfazed. Consciousness is what you're saying, and it continues, and death is just a moment in time. I agree, it is. We do fear it though, and it is. But you're right, it's just a small, I always think about death like I remember a Buddhist teaching, or somebody told me once, you didn't fear being born. Why would you fear dying? And my response, in my devil's advocate nature always is, well, I don't remember being born. So maybe I was afraid, but I don't know. I agree that it's just a small fraction of time, and that what's more important is the in-between from birth to death, what you're doing in the moment now. If it's all the same moment, then this moment is what matters. But there's not a lot of written stuff on death. There's not a lot of books. I remember researching it. It is kind of a taboo subject. And I think that's because of back to the programmability of human beings. That's because of the almighty boob tube, the television, the computers, all of it. It's programmed us to fear death. It's the ultimate, judge in any situation on action movies. It's the ultimate, result of bad behavior or bad decisions or even just bad luck. So I wish we would talk about it more in a positive way. And your last paragraph made me think about it more as a positive way. Because you're right, it is just a fraction of time. It's just a moment. It doesn't define the whole, nor does any one moment, but the whole, So thank you for your response. I don't want this video to go on too long. This is pretty much just, I'll call it Star Love, Starlight, and hopefully you enjoyed it. Also, feel free to comment again. I don't know, I can't guarantee, I always do a video response to your comments, but if they bother me enough intellectually, I probably will, because you made me think, and that's what I live for, is to think about things in new ways, and you're very smart. I sent you a few emails. I finished, just as a side note, I did finish Carl. I got an inked copy. I inked it, it's a little lighter than the original. I'll be honest, I'm very critical of my own art, and I ran it by a few people. I don't know, I know you like it. Let me know, get back to me on that, because I almost feel like I want to start over and do another one. I think he looks a little too much like one of the people you suggested that he looked like. So let me know about that, just my insecurity there. It's no problem if you're not in a hurry for me to work on another one, and I just love doing work for you, so at this point I want to give you your money's worth. You gave me a sizable amount of money in December, and I feel like I owe you more than this for that. So if there's another scene or the back of the house, or whatever you'd like me to do. I'd like to do that for you free of charge, just as a way of saying thank you. So, thank you very much, and have a great day.